The truth about diets and weight loss. Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Dr. Mark Shankman and welcome back to the Obesity Project. Today, episode 19, the truth about diets and weight loss and which diets actually work for fat loss and insulin resistance. So, are you tired of dieting, diet after diet, still struggling with weight loss? Are low fat, low carb, keto, vegan, fasting, which one of these diets actually works best and which one works best for certain different conditions? Well, the secret is, and I've talked about this many times before, it's not just about calories, it's about controlling insulin. So let's break down the science behind these diets so that you can make the best choice for yourself. So we're going to start off with the big picture. And this is why most diets fail. Obesity is not just about calories in, calories out, as we've talked about many times before. It's about hormones. Many different hormones play a role, but of course, primarily insulin is the driving factor and the sort of main gatekeeper, so to speak, when it comes to all of the hormones. So, what drives weight gain is primarily chronically high insulin levels. When high insulin levels are ramped up and are kicking, it just traps us in a fat storage mode. We cannot burn fat. We cannot utilize our own natural body's fat sources when insulin levels are high. So we have to think about and we have to look at diets that reduce insulin, not just reducing calories. Reducing calories is only a very small portion of, it's not that it doesn't matter, but it's that it's a very small percentage of the overlying problem, which the root cause of weight gain is hormone control. So the real question is which diet actually lowers insulin levels long term. So we're going to go through the diet breakdown. We're going to talk about how they actually affect weight loss and insulin. And we're going to start off with the granddaddy of them all, the absolute root of the problem, which is the standard American diet. So with the standard American diet, we have high sugar, we have refined carbohydrates, we have processed foods. All of these things will spike insulin throughout the day. And worse yet, you eat this sugar meal, your insulin spikes, it causes your blood sugar to plummet. An hour and a half, 2 hours max later, you're actually starving again, and you eat more highly refined carbohydrates, and you go through this spike, drop, spike, drop, spike, drop system throughout the course of the day. And you're on this roller coaster ride all throughout, your waking hours. And no question, this leads to obesity, it leads to metabolic syndrome, and it leads to diabetes. And it is the absolute, positively worst diet for weight loss and insulin resistance. So we have to compare everything else to the standard American diet. Now, the second diet I want to talk about is the low-fat diet. And this was the 90s mistake. This was what happened when they started looking at this increase in heart disease, vilified fat, and came up with this low-fat diet. They promoted it as heart healthy, but is it really heart healthy? Does it really help lower your risk of cardiovascular disease? And the answer certainly is no. Well, here's how it works. It replaces fat with other macronutrients, primarily sugars and carbs. And as we just mentioned, sugar and carbs spike insulin and lead to hunger and lead to overeating and lead to excess calories and lead to weight gain, I mean. So all of these things are triggered by replacing fat with sugar and carbs. And so this diet or this way of eating fails in the long term for weight loss and diabetes reversal. So if you eat a low fat, high carb diet, but you do restrict calories, you certainly will lose a little bit of weight in the early stages, but it's going to plateau and you're going to regain that weight very, very quickly. So now we're going to dive into all of the different diets that you kind of see behind me that many people have talked about, and I'm going to cover these next. So the third sort of category is the low carb set of diets, and this includes keto, this includes carnivore. These are the insulin control champions. These are the diets that really hone in on and maximize the effect on insulin control. So in these diets, you're cutting carbs, which of course then drops insulin, which finally now allows your body to start using your fat stores, the body fat that you have in both the subcutaneous and the visceral fat. So subcutaneous is all the stuff kind of under our skin. It's all the wiggly jiggly fat that we have all over our bodies. And then the visceral fat is the stuff that is in our gut that surrounds all of our body's organs and is the more damaging kind of fat if you have too much, and is the fat that leads to more metabolic disease. So if we allow the insulin levels to drop, our body can start burning some of this fat as fuel. And it is extreme. These diets are extremely effective in reversing type 2 diabetes. Now, the challenge with some of these diets, they are pretty restrictive. And so some people do struggle with sustainability and adaptation. I'm going to shoot another video very, very shortly because I'm about 24 hours into the carnivore diet. I'm going to shoot a separate video that talks about some of the challenges that I've had only in a mere 24 hours in one day. Some of the things that people don't talk about, and the challenges with doing restrictive diets. So this class is all sort of lumped together: low carb, keto, carnivore, all of these things. And there are variations on these themes. You have keto, you have ketovore, you have carnivore, and you have like lion diet and all of these other sort of variations on the theme. But bottom line is they're all low carb low carb diets that are all within the keto sort of family. All right, the fourth category is the Mediterranean diet. And the Mediterranean diet has definitely been proven to be healthier, but you still do see some insulin spikes. So it's a good balance of healthy fats, protein, and fiber. It does have some moderate carbs. So it's certainly better than the standard American diet. It's certainly better than low-fat diet, but still has some insulin raising effects. This is the one diet that has been proven to be best for heart health, but not exactly ideal for reversing diabetes. So if you suffer from insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, this may not be the best meal plan for you. But if you're just looking to prevent disease, to prevent cardiovascular disease, and promote heart health, this may be a very, very good option for you. All right, so now we're going to get into the vegan and plant-based diets. They do have their place, of course, but they're not always super healthy. So, and I know I'm going to catch a lot of grief from my vegan and vegetarian friends out there, but there are some definite downsides to these diets. First of all, they are eliminating processed meats and saturated fat, which can be problematic. They can be very high in carbs. Now, they do tend to be high in whole food carbs, which we said are, of course, better than processed foods, but they can raise insulin too much for some people. And as a result, this may not be great, especially in the, certainly somewhat effective for obesity, but definitely not quite as effective as some of the others, the keto group in particular, for insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. And then, there are some essential nutrients that have to be supplemented. That's perfectly fine. All of these diets do have kind of various areas that we may need to do some supplementation. However, the vegan or plant-based diet is not 100% foolproof in terms of just the foods you're eating. And then another sort of sneaky aspect of vegan or plant-based is that some vegan foods are actually sort of processed junk. And so they take and highly process, and some of these foods, and as we've mentioned, highly refined, highly processed foods can definitely be problematic and cannot be good for you. So I'm not saying that the vegan or plant-based diet is not a useful diet. It will help you lose weight, but again, there could be some problems with the vegan and plant-based diets that you need to at least be aware of. Now, the sixth category is intermittent fasting. Down here, you see, let me see if I can point my finger. There we go, to OMAD. That's a various type of intermittent fasting. That stands for 1 meal a day. Intermittent fasting is a game changer when it comes to insulin. It actually is even more effective and efficient at reversing insulin levels and insulin resistance than even the keto group. Um, and so no food, of course, equals no insulin spike. And with keto, with carnivore, with any of those diets, the fat creates virtually no insulin increase, very, very slight, almost undetectable. But the protein in the meal that you're eating definitely will increase the insulin level. So it's not that there's no insulin spikes with keto or carnivore. They're just minimized. And so, of course, if you're eating no food, you're going to have no insulin spike, and then insulin levels can drop naturally, can drop faster and more sustainably over time. Now, the beauty of intermittent fasting is that it works with any diet. So you can make any low carb, keto, Mediterranean, vegan, vegetarian diet even more effective by mixing in some intermittent fasting as well. And I'm going to do future videos that talk about the various types of intermittent fasting, what you see over the course of like a 24-hour period, what kinds of effects you get, some of the different types of intermittent fasting and the time frames. We're going to go into all of that in the next coming videos. So intermittent fasting can be used on its own or can be used in combination with any of these other diets. So I want to debunk some of the most common some of the biggest diet myths that are out there. First of all, the one big sort of granddaddy of them all is that all calories are the same. And this one is complete crap. It is not the same. You cannot tell me that 100 calories of cookies are exactly the same as 100 calories of broccoli. That is completely untrue because the body's reaction to those foods are dramatically different for broccoli and for cookies. Obviously, the insulin response matters, and with the cookies, you're going to get a huge insulin response, and with broccoli, you're going to get very little. So all calories are not the same. This is complete crap. It's still promoted out there. People still talk about, well, if you save 100 calories from that meal that you're eating, you can eat 100 calories of cookies later. This is complete garbage, completely untrue. And, that 100 calories of cookies is far more fattening and will create much bigger weight gains than 100 calories of fat, of protein, and certainly even whole food carbohydrates. So eating fat will make you fat. And this is complete crap too. When you eat fat, you don't get an increase in insulin or very, very minimal. Yet sugar and refined carbs absolutely do make you fat. These are much more fattening foods. Your grandmother 100 years ago knew this. Your great grandmother, I guess, if it's 100 years ago, but your grandmother 50 years ago knew this. My grandmother used to tell me all the time, if I wanted a snack and I was hungry, no, you can't have that snack because you're going to ruin your dinner or ruin your lunch or ruin your next meal. And or if it was after dinner, well, you should have eaten more for dinner. And that's because fat does keep you satiated. Highly refined carbohydrates do not. There's no sort of off switch for refined carbohydrates. And so eating sugar, eating refined carbs do make you fat. Eating fat does not. If your insulin is low and you're in a fat burning mode, eating fat is just giving you more energy to burn. Now, it is true, and this one is a little bit true that people kind of get confused on. If you're in a fat burning mode, let's say you've been intermittent fasting for 12 hours. If you're in a fat burning mode and you give your body fat, your body will use that fat to burn. However, it's not true that if you give your body sugar, then it'll take that same fat and burn it as opposed to sugar. It'll burn the sugar first. It prioritizes the sugar, and of course, the sugar creates that insulin spike, and that insulin spike basically turns off fat burning. So you do have to be careful. If you're in fat burning mode and you give your body fat, it's not going to use your own natural body stores. It's going to use the fat that you're eating. So you have to be a little bit careful if your goal with these diets is weight loss. Because if you're trying to lose fat, then you don't want to feed your body too much as far as fat goes. You do want to, you don't want to overeat the fat is what I'm kind of getting at. And then the last one is that artificial sweeteners actually help or improve weight loss. And this is untrue. They do actually spike insulin levels as well. There's been multiple studies that if you take a solution, if you give a group of individuals in a study a solution with an artificial sweetener in it, and they swish that solution around and they spit that solution out. First of all, that solution itself had no calories. It was artificially sweetened and there was no sugar in it, yet you will see spikes in those individuals' insulin. So our mind and our body are sort of expecting sugar to come in when we taste artificial sweeteners, and that by itself, that alone can spike insulin levels. So these are some of the biggest, myths out there that we need to debunk. So what's the verdict? Which diet is best for you? And so there are sort of categories of what diet you should be doing based on what it is that you're looking for. All of these diets are useful. Even I kind of knocked on the vegetarian or plant-based vegan diets, but there's a place for all of them. I'm not here to tell you any one diet is better than the other. I've chosen carnivore because of my own personal reasons, which I'm happy to share, but you have to look at what it is you're trying to accomplish so that you can choose the very best diet to accomplish those goals. So the best at reversing type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance are certainly the keto, the carnivore, and the intermittent fasting. Those are the most effective at reducing insulin levels, reducing insulin resistance, and reversing type 2 diabetes. We've been told for many, many years that type 2 diabetes is a chronically progressive disease. That is absolutely untrue with these diets. You absolutely can reverse and cure type 2 diabetes. Now, those are the best, but paleo and Mediterranean, other low carb diets are good for reducing type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. The worst is, of course, the standard American diet, the low fat diet, and the high carb vegan diet for type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. For sustained weight loss and satiety, the best diets for those are the low carb diets, the Mediterranean, paleo, and fasting. All of those are equally beneficial. And then for general health and longevity, the Mediterranean plus some intermittent fasting may be the best option there. So I'd love to hear back from you guys, get some input. Which diet have you done? Which diet has worked best for you? I would love you to drop a comment down below and share your experiences with me, share it with everybody else. And then, of course, tag someone who needs to see this, that needs to have this sort of overview on the various diets out there and, what may be best and what their goal is. And so then what diet may be best for them. And then, of course, continue to follow me if you want more science-backed breakdowns of both diet, obesity, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, intermittent fasting. I'm going to get into a whole series of intermittent fasting videos coming up in this week. And I look forward to seeing you on here again. And I thank you for your time and your attention. Make sure to like, share, and comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care and thanks.